Shalom. When the South souls by giving no praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem El Shah, Ba'ashem Kakadash, the blood of the Apostle Great Millstone, and honors you by the doing the work of the Most in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. His true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, meaning in, having that, and Sham, meaning names Yahweh, and the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, this this is the news of the day, right? This is the Spain blackouts, right, which has effectively caught the world, it's caught, yeah, literally the world by, what's the word I'm looking for? It's lucky, I'm just a bit slow right now, right? But yeah, the it caught everyone by surprise, okay, and let me pull this precept real quick, right? This is First Thessalonians 5. It makes me think of this point here in verse 2, right? It says, "But of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you, for ye know yourselves perfectly that the day of the Lord will so come as a thief in the night," right? And I was just thinking just now, this is has, just like as everyone was kind of just going about their day, right? Eating, drinking, giving in marriage. You can load that one up too, right? Then this happens, right? Because it was 12:30 in the afternoon, right? And then everything just shut down. Okay, so we're the ifs, the causes, the buts, whatever, right? The point is that it happened. Okay, I have my questions, just trying to what do you call it, trying to work around the senses and stuff like that. But I have my theories, and one of the things I wanted to look into real quick, right, was just, for instance, why the internet was created, which in fact I'll just jump to that. In fact, I'll read this and I'll jump to that real quick, right? Why the internet was created, because it's like how from their official story, which they're saying it's not a cyber attack. If it's a cyber attack, it kind of makes sense, right? But if they're just saying it was some anomaly made by weather, right, caused by weather, then it's just like a thing of like, wait, that's how comes it took out power in the entire country. It's like that doesn't really make sense from a city planning point of view, right? Considering you've got all of these films that talk about, we're gonna attack the grid and etc etc etc, right? But those are always cyber attacks, right? So you tell me, from all of those warnings, that wasn't a national security threat. It'd be interesting to see what is made from that. Right, but let me grab this real quick. It's not what I wanted. I wanted 24. I don't know how I typed in 26, but it's Matthew 24 and 36, right? But of the day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. All right, and I'm bringing out those two precepts because, once again, people just were going to work that day, right? These are people that just think that everything is just going to continue as it is, right? There's going to work, or it was at work, or on holiday, etc etc etc, right? And they didn't think that something like this could happen. And just like when the Lord comes, right, people are just going to be doing their best to try and maintain a semblance of normality, right? Because things are going to be happening in the world right at that time. But even still, you're gonna have people trying to maintain that semblance of normality, which is what this scripture is going into, right? And then bam, that's it, right? But that's why we started off with previous precept, right, where it's kind of like we're not asleep. We're waiting for these things. We're hoping for these things, right? We're seeing these things, and we're just there, like, you see, bam, just like that. That comfort that people are would you call it, are used to, right, can just be taken away. And what's interesting to me as well about this whole situation is, just the other day, right here in England, we had the whole issue with Heathrow, right? Basically, a fire at a substation near Heathrow Airport, right? Once again, critical infrastructure, right? And then it basically shut the airport down for pretty much the whole day, more or less, right? And that's, I believe, Europe's busiest airport, right? I can see the planes from my window, and it's just like one, literally like one every 2 minutes going into land. So imagine, all of those basically had to be routed here, there, and everywhere. Okay, you know, yeah. So you see that man. So it's all interesting. Now, the reason why, from my background, just being, tech guy, this kind of just doesn't make sense, like how the whole system is so connected like that. From what they're saying, I'm talking official story, right? Is basically when the internet was created, right? Which I'll read into it. So succinctly, right? The internet was created to allow resilient, decentralized communication between computers, originally for military and research purposes, like ARPANET, right? So when you consider before, what we used to have was this idea of exchanges, right? So you would call up the exchange will then route you through to your destination, right? So if you're trying to get critical information from A to B, you had this exchange in the middle. So if you were an enemy combatant, right, you could just take out the exchange, and then that way you have no A has no way of getting a message to B and B to A, as an example. Right, so what they basically worked on was this idea of like I called it a web. They referred it to referred to it as something else, right? But this idea of, instead of it being A exchange B, it could be A and then a whole load of different exchanges to get to B, right? Point I'm trying to make is, if they saw that as a potential threat, right, way back then, right, how comes that wasn't it wasn't a similar thing with the with with the power networks? Okay, so like I said, just asking questions, not making any claims before, once again, before YouTube does what YouTube does, right? But I just said, it's just things that make you go as they say, right? But for us, once again, these are the things that we look for. Right, we look for these things, to be happening, because it's just a reminder of the times, because these things, weren't happening like this, right? But that's how we know that, we're nearing the end of this man's system. Okay, just read, some of these, state of emergency. So once again, yeah, out of nowhere, the whole world can just change, and that's kind of what we're looking for, right? We're looking for these things that are going to cause, the movement towards this MOTB system, right? Which, ironically, one of the articles I read was basically speaking on how they had to go from certain shops had to go from cashless to only accepting cash, because the networks basically weren't working, which also goes to show you that those that do take that MOTB, right, are two-time losers, because they're gonna take it seeking to save their life, not realizing that he can still, you're dealing with the devil. He may say, yeah, man, I'll take care of you if you take it, and then he doesn't take care of you, right? But that's the individual, that we're dealing with. Okay, but yeah, just very interesting. I want to keep an eye on. Yeah, and so yeah, as always, what I was edifying. Till next time we say shalom.